a case for Michael Guidry, DOC 743937, date of birth March 2nd, 1943, classified as a first felony offender. Offense, molestation of a juvenile. Sentencing date, April 30th, 2019. Sentenced to 10 years, hard labor, 3 years suspended. Parole date, March 13, 2022. Good time, not eligible. Full term is November 14, 2026. Is this information correct?
Is that information correct?
I can't hear you.
Is your information correct? What she did?
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jackson.
You're on mute, Miss Jackson.
I know I'm trying to.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Guidry. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Mr. Guidry, do you have a hearing loss?
Yes, I do. I'm slowly going down.
All right, so if I'm talking at this volume, are you able to hear me?
You're the first one I'm able to hear today. That's great.
Okay, well, I'll make sure I speak loudly enough, Mr. Guidry.
Thank you.
I'm Bonnie Jackson. I have been assigned your case for review. And so I'll have some questions for you this morning. All right?
Okay.
All right. All right. You're 78 years old. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Other than hearing loss, do you have any other physical health issues?
I have any other besides hearing?
Yes.
I have, when I got here, I'd already had for a couple of years. They told me the doctors told me the name of the foot disease. It starts with an I, but I can't remember it. I've never heard it before. It's but they're dying. My feet are dying. And so the doctor said the only thing they can do, they can't stop it. They can slow it down or speed it up.
Do
And
you have
slowing
any?
it down means walking almost all day.
Okay. Do you have any other problems such as heart disease or any other major health issues, Mr. Guidry?
Yes, when I first got here 2 years ago, in July, I blacked out coming out of a meeting, one of the meetings, introducing us to the place, and I fell and slammed my head against the cement. And when they rushed me, I was unconscious. They rushed me to Lady of the Lake, and the doctor the next day, when they brought me back conscious, said there's 3 huge splits in my brain and it's bleeding profusely.
Okay.
He said, if we don't slow it down or stop it, we will be having your funeral before long. And they did. The main way was walking with my head up and all that kind of stuff.
All right. All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Guidry. Let me ask you something. You said that you've been incarcerated for 2 years. Is that correct?
Yeah. This is the 3rd year. It started in May.
What was there a time when you were released from prison due to COVID?
Due to COVID?
Yes. Was there any time you were let out of jail because of the pandemic?
Oh, I know last year I went from July until beginning of October to the nursing home in Iberia. At the beginning of that time, I couldn't go because the governor had just.
Okay, Miss Guidry, I need you to answer my question. So from July until October, you were someplace other than prison, is that correct?
That's correct.
Where were you, Mr. Guidry?
The first part of it was at my family home because as we were driving away from here.
Okay, that's okay. At your family home, and then where else, Mr. Guidry?
As soon as the nursing home opened, they called, and they came and picked me up and brought me there.
Okay. Mr. Guidry, I see that you haven't really participated in a lot of programs while you've been in jail. Can you tell me why you've not participated in any programs?
Probably because I didn't know about them, and I'm following the directions of my doctors because of my feet and because of my dying brain, which lost memory and everything else.
So you've not taken any of the classes that they offer while you've been in DOC?
The last one I did was, what's the name of that? Preparing you to go outside. To go back.
Pre-release?
Huh?
Pre-release?
Yeah, pre-release.
Was that the 100-hour program?
It was 12 classes, two each week for 6 weeks.
All right. I also see that. What did you want to say, Mr. Guidry?
But I got a diploma when it ended.
All right. Can anyone in the room help Mr. Guidry with what he took?
Ms. Jackson, I'm looking right now. I don't see it in any of the documentation I have right here.
Right.
I can find out for you. Can you text someone and find out? Maybe?
If you will, because the information I have is that he's not participated in any programming due to his age. And so I'm not sure if that's correct.
No, we got something right here. He completed pre-release, Ms. Jackson. He did.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Also, Mr. Guidry, I see that you have not had any write-ups during the time that you've been incarcerated. Is that correct?
As far as I know, it is, yeah.
Also, Mr. Guidry, the information indicates that prior to your sentencing, prior to going into prison, you have participated in a sex offender treatment program. Is that correct?
That's right, with Dr. Lara Denwine last year.
It was just it was just you and the doctor, or was it a group counseling?
Both. I was one-to-one with Dr. Benoit. And then after a few weeks of that, he put me with a group of other people who had gotten going through the same kind of thing. And we met once a week too, with him.
Right. And okay, Mr. Guidry, how long did that counseling or treatment last?
Right after I started at home in May, the end of May, when I'm living at my home, the diocese assigned me to do that, and it continued until I was sentenced and came here.
Okay. Mr. Guidry, do you consider yourself a sex offender?
Not in the sense of all the time doing stuff like that.
Wait. I didn't hear the last thing you said. Not in the sense.
I didn't do all that kind of, this was the first time that kind of thing has happened.
Well, do you think that means that you are not a sex offender?
I have no way of knowing.
Well, let me put it like this, Mr. Guidry. In your mind, what is a sex offender?
One who forces himself on another person.
Okay. Does it matter how many times that happens?
With me, it's not how.
No, my question is, to be a sex offender, Does it have to happen multiple times? Or if it's forcing yourself on someone one time, also being a sex offender?
That particular time, I think that's what you would be, yeah.
Okay. So do you consider yourself a sex offender?
Just that time, just being part of it at that time, this time, or this.
Well, tell me some of the things that you learned or discovered in the counseling sessions for sex offenders. Tell me some things that you learned from that that apply to you.
Well, a lot of I'm very much a to myself kind of person, and Dr. Benoit really worked me through growing to be able to be healthily talking to people and all that kind of thing.
But what did you learn about the nature of sex offenses?
I don't think I don't remember.
Okay. Was there any discussion in your sessions about the impact of sexual abuse on the victim?
Yes,
Tell me what you learned from that.
just the ways that it would affect the minds of people.
Well, what are some of those ways?
They would, I know, I know some people who had started thinking about suicide and all kinds of stuff like that. That
Okay. What else?
they didn't belong anymore. They didn't want to.
What effect do you think your actions has had on the victim in your case?
It seems to be the same kind of thing that I just talked about. Possible suicide and all that kind of thing. I haven't seen it much because the law still doesn't allow me to. But
Well, how do you feel about what you did to this
Very
young
bad.
man? How do
Very
you feel about that?
very bad.
You want to elaborate?
Just that it's something that gnaws at my mind that would have happened at all.
I will tell you, Mr. Guidry, that the board received, dozens and dozens of letters of opposition against your being released. Can you understand why so many people might be opposed to your getting an early release?
Probably because the way they are seeing how the family is reacting.
And I will say that some of the people who wrote letters aren't necessarily people who know the victims personally or know anything about your situation personally, but they are reacting to the allegation of molestation coming from someone who is a member of the clergy. You also have some letters of support from people that you attended seminary with, some parishioners, some pastors, but there's a whole lot of opposition as well, including from law enforcement in this case. what assurance can you give those people that you don't pose a threat or risk if you were to be released? And I'm not suggesting that you will or you will not, but what assurance can you give anyone that this won't happen again?
The thing that's gonna happen because of my health issues is that I would go to counsel at a nursing home and stay there till I die.
Is that the only thing that would stop you from reoffending?
All kinds of support there, counselors and all that.
Well, what about some changes in your attitude and your thinking that might prevent you from reoffending?
Well, I believe that should never happen.
We can all agree on that, Mr. Guidry, but you know, one of the things that I'm hearing you say, or think I hear, is that you're not really convinced that you fit the criteria of a pedophile or a sex offender, because by your calculation, this only happened one time. And I'm not sure that you understand your role in what happened in this situation.
I feel as though I do, but that's me. But I don't plan to allow that to happen another time. It didn't happen for 50 years or whatever. It shouldn't, and I'm not going to let it happen again. And I'll be in a nursing home with all old people, so
Okay.
they're not able to leave at all.
Warden, is there anything that you would like to tell the board about Mr. Guidry?
Good morning, Ms. Jackson and the board. You know, he basically, he touched on it. As an offender goes, he completed that one pre-release class and he hasn't had any write-ups. So as far as inside of here, he hadn't caused any issues.
Is Mr. Guidry in general population?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Guidry, have you been involved in any activities within the prison that might be considered community service work or mentoring or doing anything to benefit someone else? Have you been involved in anything like that?
I have not. I've been in, the only time is this, they know I'm a priest. Some people will come talk to me about spiritual things, their own spirituality, but that's about it. But most of what I'm doing is walking and trying to regenerate my mind, which had disappeared.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Guidry. I see that Mr. Wise has some questions, and so I'll let him ask his questions. But thank you very much, Mr. Guidry.
All right, Mr. Wise.
Yes, sir. Mr. Guidry, I see that you pled guilty on these charges of molestation of a juvenile in March 27th, 2019. You was charged with 10 years hard labor. On the 10 years hard labor, you served a little over 2 years. And this was involved in a 16-year-old juvenile during that time. The remorse that I have seen today has not been the remorse that I should have seen from you on over a young man like this. And the thing that I have a problem, I've been on this board during when Mike Foster for almost 18 years. I've seen cases come and go. There's remorse to things like this. And the remorse, I don't see what I want to see in the remorse today of what's happened during this case. Can you tell this board what the problem is?
I didn't hear.
He wants to know why you're not showing remorse. I mean, that's,
Well, what?
ask him the question.
Can you repeat it? I couldn't understand what you were saying with my hearing problem. The last part of it.
All right, now you got to listen to me real close. You pled guilty in March of 2019 to molestation of a juvenile,
Yes,
okay?
yes,
To a 16-year-old young man, a 16-year-old boy.
right.
The remorse I have not seen today that I thought I would see during this case. What is the reason?
Couldn't hear it.
Why you not showing remorse?
Why I'm not sure?
Right, that's what he wants to know.
I don't know. I have remorse. My innards are torn to shreds.
I don't have any questions.
I didn't understand.
All right, guess we'll, Ms. Hogan, would you like to make a statement or would you like to make a statement at the end?
I'll make a statement at the end. I believe Mr. Guidry's sister is here in support as well.
Oh, right. Ms. Stewart going to speak?
Ms. Stewart, just press *6 to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Shall I
Yes.
proceed with my statement?
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Bonnie Guidry Stewart. I'm Mike's sister. I am in favor of his being granted parole. It is my belief that Mike will never reoffend, nor would he violate the terms of his parole if it were to be granted. I'm in communication with Mike daily via phone from Dixon and will continue to be supportive of Mike if he is granted parole. Mike has family and friends who have been supportive of him throughout this process, and they will continue to be supportive of him if he is granted parole. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Mr. Alex Payton.
Can you all hear me?
Sure can.
I'm Alex Payton. I'm 26. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I have a young daughter who's 1.5, and I have another daughter on the way. I'm a devout and practicing Catholic. I'm the older brother to Oliver Payton, who is the victim. In the deposition, Father Michael Guidry had said that it was part of his pastoral duty to do what he did to my brother. And I want to remind the board that the Diocese of Lafayette has not laicized him, which means they have not deprived him of his holy orders, which means he is still a priest, which means he is not deprived of his holy orders. He can still give spiritual guidance. He can still give confession. He can still say mass. He can still give the sacraments, the same things that give him the authority over people, which allow him to groom people and then ultimately abuse him. And so I want to let my parents speak more than me, but I want to end off with this. My vocation, which comes from the Latin vocare, which means my calling, which means I believe God calls me to be this, is as a husband and a father. And so it's the most important thing in my life, more important than my job, more important than anything else. I have to give my life for my family at any time. Guidry believes that molesting my brother was part of his calling. He believes that was part to his priesthood. That is part of what his life is about. Molesting my brother is part of his very being. And so let me ask you, what is the difference between Michael Guidry and an Islamic extremist who straps a bomb to himself to blow up a wedding or a funeral or drives a car through a crowd? God apparently tells those people to do that. God told Guidry to molest my brother, apparently. That is part of what he is and who he is. I have spent thousands of my own dollars having to receive counseling. I work in the finance industry. I work on commission, which means that time is money for me. But I can't do my job unless I go to counseling, which I've been going to for close to 3 years now. And so I want to let my parents speak, but I want the board, I ask that you please keep that in mind, that Guidry said it was part of his pastoral duty to do what he did to my brother. It is part of who he is as a priest that caused him to act that way. Absolutely, he is not remorseful. Why would he be remorseful? He believes he's called to do this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we'll hear from Mr. and Ms. Payton.
Good morning, members of the board, Ms. Jackson, Mr. Wise, Mr. Kelsey. My name is Scott Payton. I'm Oliver's father. Thank you for allowing me and my family time to address the board concerning Father Michael Guidry. On behalf of Oliver and my entire family, we strongly oppose Father Michael Guidry being released to parole supervision. You know, it took a lot of courage for my son, Oliver, to come forward and to report the abuse. He suffered alone for 3 years before breaking his silence because he was afraid to come forward for so many reasons. Oliver is the second of our 6 children. Before the abuse, Oliver was a happy and active child. He loved the outdoors. He liked to fish. He liked to hunt. He was an altar server at the church. He was an innocent child, unaware of the evils in the world. After the abuse, during the 3 years of torture, he suffered with this horrible secret all alone. His happy childhood came to an end. The innocence of his childhood, a 16-year-old boy, imagine what you were doing when you were 16, his innocence taken by someone his family trusted, someone he trusted, someone who, according to our Catholic faith, is supposed to represent Christ here on earth. Father Guidry groomed Oliver. He groomed our entire family for nearly a decade, patiently waiting to take advantage of Oliver. He manipulated our son. He pushed alcohol and cigarettes on him. He even bought him gifts to buy his attention. Father Guidry was our parish priest. I was his deacon. My sons were his altar servers. My wife was a catechism teacher, and our entire family was active in the parish. Father Guidry believed our son would never come forward. He said this in his deposition in early as January of this year. And Mr. Wise, you bring up a good point. Father Guidry has shown no remorse. In fact, he blames Oliver. And you heard earlier, he blames our family's reaction as to why there are people sending letters in opposition. He failed to even answer Ms. Jackson's question when it came to what and is he a sex offender. Oliver was a child at the time of the abuse when all this happened. Father Guidry told Oliver that Oliver had committed a sin. And Father Guidry, as Alex pointed out, even asserts that molesting our son was part of his pastoral duties. And he went even further to say that it was in an attempt to teach our son a lesson. That lesson is a tough one that Oliver and our family has to live with every day. It was a lesson of betrayal, confusion, hurt, pain, addiction, trauma, and a crisis of faith. I can't even pray to my God without thinking of what this man did to our son. Picture your pastor with your child naked. Unbelievable. Our son can't even bear to attend this hearing. He doesn't want to see Father Guidry. He doesn't want to hear his voice. He doesn't want to hear his laughter. He does not take this seriously. I don't want another child, I don't want another family to ever have to suffer at the hands of Father Michael Guidry. Father Guidry is a threat to public safety. He is a calculated predator who hides behind the Roman collar of his Catholic priesthood. You've heard it from his own mouth. He's not rehabilitated. He's not participating in programs. He's not remorseful because he doesn't feel he did anything wrong, which is a typical profile of a pedophile, of a narcissist. At this time, I believe Father Guidry should remain in prison where he belongs. And I thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak, and I will turn it over to my wife.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for allowing me this time. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 11 through 13 says, "Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. For it is a shame even to speak of the things that they do in secret. But when anything is exposed by the light, it becomes visible. For anything that becomes visible is light. I am a mother. I am a Catholic mother. I am the mother of the victim of Father Michael Guidry's crime. 3 short years ago, I found out what Father Mike had done to my son 3 years prior. I sit here today because now it is my duty as a mother and as a Catholic Christian to expose the unfruitful works of darkness known as clergy sexual abuse, to expose them and those who commit them. It is truly shameful that we are having to sit here today exposing the things that Father Mike Guidry, a Catholic priest, did in secret. He spent time planning his crime of sexual abuse. He committed this crime of his own free will. We know there are many like him who belong here in a correctional facility for their horrific crimes of clergy sex abuse. It is time to make visible this evil and wickedness that plagues my Catholic Church and hold those who commit these crimes accountable. Father Mike's crimes have been exposed and brought to light. He has been sentenced to prison for correction. His time in Dixon Correctional Facility gives my son the hope of justice that he deserves and allows time for my son to heal. It was just a few short months ago that Father Mike, in his own words, still did not show any remorse for the crime of sexual abuse that he committed against my son. And a few minutes ago, we also heard there is still no remorse. He can't even explain what remorse should be or feel like or sound like. If he is allowed to be released on parole, who will help him with this correction? We certainly cannot leave that up to the Diocese of Lafayette. One of his good friends and a brother priest admitted to not wanting to know what Father Mike did or to even talk to him about why he is in prison. If that is the case, who will correct him and help him to understand the far-reaching effects of this evil crime that he has committed? Therefore, my trust is in Dixon Correctional Facility to correct him. We cannot allow this man to have parole when he still believes his crime was not a crime. He has no remorse for his victim and has served so very little time of his sentence. So as a mother, I ask you, please deny him parole. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll reach out to the staff. Did you guys have any input there, Warden?
No, sir. Nothing that hadn't been said already.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Guidry, would you like to make a statement on your behalf? Would you like to make a statement on your behalf, Mr. Guidry? Would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Main thing I'd like to do is if I hurt people, I would do anything in prayer and anything else to bring about healing to them. That'd be the main thing for me, following Jesus Christ.
All right. Thank you, sir. Ms. Hogan?
Thank you, Mr. Kelsey. Mr. Guidry is 78 years old, and prior to this offense for which he pled guilty, he served his community for nearly 50 years without any allegations of misconduct. Mr. Guidry touched briefly on the fact that right when he arrived to Dixon, he suffered a fall, which caused confusion and a head injury, which landed him in the hospital for 5 days and the infirmary at Dixon for 5.5 weeks. Given his medical conditions and the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the sentencing judge granted an appeal bond in this case. And when the judge granted an appeal bond, the judge noted that while it had sentenced Mr. Guidry to serve 7 years in prison, it had not sentenced him to die. Given Mr. Guidry's age of 78, his health conditions, the fact that the loss of his feet is imminent, and his brain injuries, if he is granted release, he would go immediately to a nursing home. There's a letter that is submitted in the packet I submitted from the Consolata Nursing Home in New Iberia, where Mr. Guidry spent the majority of his time while he was on bond, pending his direct appeal. And he would essentially live there until he dies. He has the support of members of his community. He has the support of Consolata Nursing Home. He would abide by any conditions imposed. He was on an ankle monitor for about a year prior to his sentencing. He sought out sex offender treatment in the year prior to his sentencing. And Dr. Larry Benoit testified at his sentencing that Mr. Guidry has an extremely low risk of ever committing another sex offense. His official Tiger score is also indicative of an extremely low risk of recidivism. So I submit that if Mr. Guidry were paroled and was able to live in the Consolata Nursing Home in New Iberia, he would stay on an ankle monitor for the remainder of his sentence, and he would also enroll in sex offender treatment programs through Dr. Benoit and live there until the remainder of his sentence and the remainder of his life. So we would ask that this board grant Mr. Guidry parole to the nursing home with any other appropriate conditions it deems appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is the panel prepared to vote? Ms. Bonnie Jackson?
Mr. Guidry, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Guidry, while I am aware of your age and some health issues you may have, I don't think those things are enough to mitigate towards release. You seem to be doing well. You have access to treatment. And if your situation changes at some point in the future, there is always the option of a medical furlough or a medical parole if your situation becomes dire. But we're not there today. I am concerned that you don't seem to have any real insight into your offense. You don't seem to recognize yourself as being a sex offender, a pedophile in particular. And so I don't know that you've done a lot of that internal work that's necessary for you to accept the fact that you've committed a crime. You've caused tremendous amount of harm to the victim, his family, to your faith community. You've caused a tremendous amount of harm, and you don't seem to have much awareness of that at this time. Also, you've spent very little of your sentence while incarcerated. And in fact, some of that time you were released and you were at your home and then at the nursing home. And so you really haven't served sufficient time, given the severity of the charges against you, for me to feel that parole early release is appropriate in your case. And so today I will be denying your motion or your request for parole.
Mr. Wise? All right, Mr. Jim, you got you? Take off of mute, Mr. Wise.
Okay, I thought everything was froze up there a minute. But anyway, at this time, I'm gonna be voting to deny. I'm voting to deny because I think you need more program. Also, the remorse that I thought you didn't show enough remorse today for me, and also with this very strong law enforcement opposition and victims opposition. My vote is to deny. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Guidry, you have 2 votes to deny. Also, I'm going to vote to deny your parole due to law enforcement opposition, victim opposition. You lack of remorse. You need more programming. So you have 3 votes to deny. Your parole's been denied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane Hogan. We've seen her often at the working for the Parole Project. Of course, now this was not for the Parole Project. I just don't know how someone can take a case like this and sleep well at night. I just don't. We have seen many cases, but this is the first that we have seen of a Catholic priest, We've seen a lot of people hide behind religion, but we know it exists. We know it's common, but we haven't seen a parole hearing. And what's particularly, I think, shocking about this one is just how completely unremorseful and disillusion, nuts. What's the word I'm looking for? This cockroach is. He has a cartoon laugh. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it was like a classic Looney Tune cartoon laugh. And he would just laugh at all the most. If you had to say at this point of the hearing, don't laugh, he laughed. He really thinks he's did nothing wrong. He really, really, really does not think, he thinks he's wrongfully locked up. And to think that this man was ordained in 1971, and Ms. Hogan said he has no prior accusations or he's done it all. And let's be real. So has probably almost all priests who are finally accused in recent years, had gone decades without being accused, but they were still doing it. Times have changed. These things don't just get swept under the rug like they used to. They still do, but not every time. The victim, the survivor, it took him 3 years to come out and finally say the truth. The level of disturbance, it's hard to understand. And I you know, when I first saw this case, Richard, he's like brought it to my attention, you know, because this was filmed. This was initially recorded in 2020. And sorry, 2021, 8/17/2021. You know, at the beginning, I cut out about the first 2 minutes because the first 2 minutes was so frustrating. They kept trying to talk to him, and he kept saying, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And I believe that he was being manipulative. We have seen it. I just don't let myself accept it anymore for what it is, because I've seen that delaying tactic used. And it's always used by roaches. It's not used by others. And they pretend they can't hear so that they can hope to the question gets stopped over, or they can think of an answer. And the funniest part too, Ms. Hogan says that the psychiatrist said that he has a low risk of reoffending. It's like, oh, pathetic. And he also has a low risk score, so you should let him out. And to think that he only got 10 years, and to think that he actually got let out during COVID, he was able to live free. And then he states that when the very first, I think, day or 2 days that he got incarcerated, he falls and gets knocked unconscious and then spends the next like 6 weeks in a hospital. And yeah, I believe his injury was probably real, but I don't believe that I would believe that he intentionally banged his head, because he said, holy cow, this is my life for the next 10 years. And he found a way to get out, to go to the hospital. Scary to think that that it's true that he's still part of the church, that all through this, through everything that happened, they still consider him to be an ordained preacher. That's crazy. And just think about that. In his final speech, what was his last words? If I hurt people, this is what he said in his last words. If I hurt people, not I hurt people. If, this is his last words before they vote. If I hurt people, I would pray for them. It's just sick. This is an interesting site. bishopaccountability.org. Richard sent me all this stuff I'm going to show you. Pastors of 2 parishes announced 6/2/18 that he was accused of abuse of a minor. The abuse occurred several years prior. He was placed on leave. He turned himself into the sheriff's office after plying the 16-year-old with alcohol. The victim filed suit, and he pleaded guilty. 10 years, that's all he got. With 3 years suspended, by the way. It was 10 years with 3 years suspended, so he only had to serve 7, and he was put, like they said, he was put under house arrest because of COVID. He issued an apology in 5/7/21, and that was only because the family sued him civilly. And part of the civil lawsuit was that he had to apologize publicly. And that's when the settlement came in. Here it says he was permanently removed from the ministry, but I guess that he's still wasn't removed. He didn't lose his, I guess, ordained license. And after he did it, he told fellow priests in support group. You know, I mean, this is no surprise, really. Like, come on. He told them, oh, I did this. And they're probably like, oh, okay. I mean, what else is new? He wasn't removed until the boy came forward in 2018. He wasn't, right, so he told him in 2015 and they kept him there for 3 more years. And he had no remorse. I mean, you see it even now, nothing. 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 It was all over the news. It was a big story. Here he appealed his sentence. The court denied it. This is as early as 2020. Whoops. Right here. The district judge suspended 3 years of the sentence. Why? Who knows? It's just so bizarre. You know, you got to give this family a ton of credit. They were not going to take this laying down. They were not going to just be another victim. They stood up for what's right. They made sure that he got sentenced, and then they show up at this parole hearing and they spoke the truth. Imagine thinking of your little boy naked in the priest's arms. And then the priest blamed it on him and told him it was his fault. He talks about the lessons that they've learned, but it was lessons of betrayal, hurt, addiction. And he says, if I hurt anyone, I would pray for them. Well, monsters do exist, and we just saw one. Cockroach. Here is another hearing that we'll go see, and I would have missed it, but Brandy sent me an email. She's in our chat under King June Survivor. She has a great YouTube channel you should check out. And she is a very special human being. She has a bill written after her, and she has a story that is quite incredible. How she's a survivor, and just kept fighting. You can see some of her stuff. The bill that was passed on behalf of her on her YouTube channel. But she said, Amanda, you need to check this out. So I'm going to play it for you now. I haven't seen it yet, but I looked at the notes that actually Richard had sent me earlier, and It's a commutation hearing. So with that, let's jump in.
Hi, good afternoon. Ms. Anderson, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number, please.
Selina Anderson, 405394.
All right, Ms. Anderson, you're here this afternoon. You're seeking a commutation of your sentence. Let me acknowledge the folks who are here with us today. On Zoom, we have, let's see, Setua Jackson here with us. We have Kim Swinney, Joseph Anderson on Zoom, Pace DeVillo, and Kathy Randalls. Tiziana Young, here in Baton Rouge, Kieran Copeland, Christy Sheremy, Sabrina Monaco, Demetrici Moore, and Ashley Posey. We'll call on those. And we also have joining us by Zoom, Corey Palmer, representing the victim. So, Ms. Anderson, you were sentenced in St. John the Baptist Parish in January 1999 for a life sentence for a second-degree murder. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Your case has been assigned to Mrs. Jackson. Would you answer her questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Anderson, how are you doing today?
Okay.
How old are you?
28. I'm in 48.
She's
Okay.
a little nervous this morning.
How long have you been incarcerated?
29 years.
So how old were you when you committed this crime?
21.
The baby that was killed, how was the baby?
How old was the baby?
18 months.
What was her name?
Coriana Michelle Anderson.
And how did she die?
I smothered her.
Why smother her?
Just why? Because she was a girl.
You smothered her because she was a girl? Want to explain that to me?
You know, like, I always had boys, but when I had the girl, when I had Coriana, I was getting like different thoughts about her. And that day,
We made different thoughts about her.
meaning about her being a little girl, I always wanted all boys, but I had a girl.
Well, let's talk about that. Because I'm telling you, Miss Anderson, I've got some real concerns in this case. You had a baby that died at 19 days. What was that baby's name?
My son Ronald Anderson.
Okay. And how did Ronald die?
He had pneumonia.
Did you take him to a doctor?
Yes, ma'am.
And did the doctors treat him for his pneumonia?
Yes, ma'am.
So how did he end up dying?
They told me to give him just plain liquids for a while, and he died at home.
And then you had a 4-month-old to die.
Yes,
What was that baby's name?
Rondon Anderson.
And how did Rondon die?
SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. SIDS.
It's very rare, Ms. Anderson, for a person to have 3 children to die in infancy or in the toddler stage. And I will tell you that we have a letter in our record from the district attorney's office that indicates that you were suspected. They might not have had enough evidence to put the cases together, but they suspected you of killing your first two babies, who actually were boys. So why should me or other members of the board feel comfortable letting you out of prison, given the unfortunate circumstances with all three of your children?
Because yes, I did harm my daughter Coriana, and I know I was wrong, but as far as Rondon and Lil Ronnie, I did not, it was just natural causes with them.
But again, your explanation for why you killed the little girl is just so bizarre. Killed her because she was a girl. How did you, her neck was broken. I'm trying to understand, how did her neck get broken? Autopsy showed that she had a broken neck. So what triggered you to kill that? I mean, my 18 months, they're up walking and, toddling around, they've got a little personality. They can interact with you, and yet you deliberately chose to kill that little girl. And I'm trying to understand why. Did you not love her?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Then why would you kill her? Have you ever been diagnosed with suffering from some form of mental illness?
At home, it was depression.
Were you ever formally diagnosed with depression? Were you ever treated for depression?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
When I was home, when I had to, when I tried to kill myself and I had to go to Chalmette Hospital.
And when was that?
I was home. I don't remember the year.
After you killed your little girl, what did you do?
I went in. That's when I called the police and I told them that she was missing.
And what had you done with her body?
Put in the backyard.
And why did you do that?
Oh. I was scared.
So let's fast forward. I looked at your risk assessment. It was an overall low risk assessment, but you rated high for mental health needs and high for antisocial thinking. So again, tell me what was going on in your head when you decided to choke that baby so hard that you broke her neck? What was going on in your head?
You know, we had just came from the laundry and she was asleep. I just put her to sleep.
So you strangled her while she was sleeping?
I smothered her.
Well, I'm just looking at the doctor said the child received a broken neck and had some blood in her mouth. When asked what type of force would it take to inflict this type of injury on the child, Dr. Ivy replied that a great deal of force must have been applied for the neck to break as it did. The blood in the child's mouth could only be the result of severe trauma where the child was shaken or dropped. So you did more than just smother the child. Do you understand why I would have some concerns about your mental health? Have you received any kind of treatment for mental health issues since your incarceration?
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
And what kind of treatment did you receive?
I was put on medication and getting in self-help program.
What kind of medication were you on?
When I first came, I was on Haldol, and I don't remember the exact.
How long were you on medication?
For like a few years.
And why were you taken off the medication, or why did you stop taking the medication?
Because by me going to my classes and getting help, you know, it really helped me with the things that I was going through.
Were you a drug or alcohol user?
No, ma'am.
Well, I see you took Celebrate Recovery and Living in Balance. Those are both kind of substance abuse programs. So why'd you take those if you didn't have a history of substance abuse?
Because by me getting, I just gotten a lot of self-help programs, you know, to understand people, like some of my associates, you know,
I'm more interested in what programs helped you understand what would allow you to kill a helpless little baby girl. And what programs have helped you deal with that?
I have parenting program helped me victim impact.
How did parenting classes help you?
It shows me how to be a better mom.
What did you learn?
I learned, you know, now it's like when I have a kid, just love them, like give them motherly love. You know.
You had to take a class for that?
No, ma'am.
Warren, what can you tell us about Miss Anderson?
Miss Anderson is a minimum custody inmate with us. She works in the recreation department. She really enjoys her job and helping some of the other ladies to give back in her community. She hasn't had a write-up since 2014. And I did also want to note, since she had brought up some mental health treatment in the past. She is not currently on medication, but she still does see the mental health staff, the social workers, and psychiatry for follow-up. So she routinely sees mental health staff, but she's just not on any medication currently. So she was most recently seen in July.
Did they provide something for us?
No, ma'am, she had taken medicine, and then she had noted she had gotten off the medication a couple of years ago, but we still do follow her with a diagnosis for major depressive disorder.
Now, Ms. Anderson, you have a transition plan?
Yes, ma'am. I was accepted in Diamond House in New Orleans.
Okay, and what is the Diamond House in New Orleans?
Is a transition house with the boat.
Okay. And then what?
And I'm gonna go online and get a job, and then while waiting on my job, I'm gonna help give back to my community by going help out at the churches and helping my sister-in-law with my brother that's paralyzed.
What if you get the feeling that you need to kill your brother-in-law because he's paralyzed?
I'm just gonna go get help.
But you might not get it in time. That's all I have.
I don't see any other questions, so let's hear from those who want to speak in support. And so first, we'd like to hear from Ms. Jackson, I suppose. I can't pronounce that.
That's okay. Osetawa.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In my capacity as the co-sponsor of the LCIW Drama Club for over 20 years, I've had the opportunity to come to know the true character of Selina Anderson. She continues to demonstrate a commitment to upholding the rules and protocols of the facility as well as the members of the drama club. She currently acts as a liaison between the facility and the members of the drama club, which demonstrates that she has the capacity to be trustworthy and to be communicate clearly what is expected from the administration and how we as the drama club members can fulfill our obligations in order to produce these wonderful presentations that we do. She's also demonstrated the ability to be committed to the success of the drama club. The drama club is people who want to be on stage. Selina doesn't want to be on stage. She wants to be in the background. She currently acts as the stage manager and the director of many of our productions, which means that she's more concerned about making sure other people shine. And so as a result of that, I've come to see how she manifests devotion, commitment, and she's very trustworthy. So I hope that you would consider her in the commutation of her sentence. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate those remarks. Also on Zoom, Taste DeFillo.
Hi, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. Throughout the years that I've known Selina, when I first met Selina, she was a very caring individual. I did not know the nature of her crime, as many of us may not know. I am a formerly incarcerated individual. I am now a federal employee. A lot of the motivation in order for me to succeed out here came from Selina Anderson. I continue to be in constant communication with her. Selina gave me valuable information while I was incarcerated in order for me to keep moving. It was times that I wanted to just give up. She became like a sister to me, an older sister. I'm not sure exactly what her mental state was when her crime was committed, but I can assure you from personal experiences that Selena has shown me that she is capable of sustaining a lifestyle outside of incarceration. Selena has been an advocate for the voices that are unheard inside of LCIW. She has also been there for a lot of the elderly folk inside of LCIW who don't have a support system outside of LCIW. She helps to feed them, bathe them, make sure they take their medication. The officers in LCIW trust Selena. They have given her opportunities that other inmates may not ever receive. Upon her release, I plan on giving Selena every type of support that I am able to give her, whether that be financially, a place where she needs to rest her head. There are a lot of programs that I have been involved in since my release from LCIW that have open arms to Selena when she come home. We have the drama club. There's VOTE. There's formerly incarcerated women and girls. There's so many organizations out here that are willing to give formerly incarcerated people a chance, and she is number one on the list. There is no doubt in my mind that she will be successful out here. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. We appreciate your participation today. And here with us in Baton Rouge, we have Joseph Anderson. We'd like to hear from you, sir. Yes, please.
How you doing today? I'm the oldest of Selena Anderson. It's father. She's the baby. And coming up as kids, Selena was pretty much one of the fun kid that would make everybody laugh around the house. And when this happened many years ago, it was like, what's going on with that? But Selena was being incarcerated through the years. I'll visit me and my mother, she's deceased now. But we'll come visit and I see a difference in Selena now for a person. Like I say, back then, but now that happened, it was like, okay. But now as a person, she's a changed person for what I see as a brother. Because I was there from day one, I'm the oldest. And by her getting released from here, she's gonna help out with, like I say, my brother, he pretty much in a situation that he had a stroke a few years ago, and she can help out with the family. And myself, I am a survivor of kidney. I just received a kidney up last year. I was on dialysis for like 4 years, and she can help with the family with my situation. And pretty much that's about it.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you being here today. Thank you. I don't think I have anybody else who's indicated they'd like to speak. So Selena, is there a statement you'd like to make?
Yes, Kathy.
I'm sorry. Who is it?
Kathy.
Well, but my indication is no. We've already heard from the three speakers. I'm sorry. Yeah. So we'll hear from Miss Selena's statement now.
Yes, ma'am. I want to take the time to thank you all for allowing me to sit and speak in front of you today. I know that you all have viewed my case and you may have concerns about me, but not a day go by that I don't think about my daughter and what I did to her. Yes, it was wrong for me to take her life over my own child, and she didn't deserve it. My heart hurts every day because of it. I am reminded daily that my choice created a ripple effect with unimaginable pain and suffering for the surviving victim, my family, and my community. I pray for victims daily. I can't change what happened. I'm not that 21-year-old girl anymore. I'm 48 now and ready to better myself in society by giving back to my community. I want to go out and tell my story so they wouldn't walk in the same footsteps I did. And I want to help the elderly and one day see forgiveness from the victim family and my family. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I think we are prepared to vote, Mrs. Jackson.
Selena, I still don't know why you killed Corianne. I still don't know why. And your explanation doesn't help me understand it any better. And I do have concerns that you have some serious mental health issues that perhaps have not yet been addressed. And it's hard for me to believe that you had 2 prior children that died from natural causes. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't believe that they died from natural causes. I believe they weren't able to prove conclusively that you took their lives, but I believe that you did. And I don't know what the psychological motivation for that was. I don't know. But I don't know that it's been addressed either. And until it is, I just can't feel comfortable voting to release you. So my vote today is to deny. And I think you need some additional mental health treatment. Mr. Maribel.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Sanderson, this is it's a bizarre case, I guess, is my comment. Like Judge Jackson, there's so many questions I still have after hearing this. I agree with everything that Judge Jackson has said. My vote likewise would be to deny. I do believe that you need, I think you've been evaluated, but I think there's something deeper there that needs to be explored. I would encourage you to try to get to the bottom of that. Good luck to you.
Mr. Freeman.
I concur with my colleagues for the same reason.
Ms. Anderson, I do agree with my colleagues. I'm concerned about you. I think there's some deeper issues that haven't been addressed. And I do hope that you seek the help that you need. But today, Ms. Anderson, your application for clemency has been denied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bizarre. Like, I think just sickening. She said it so nonchalantly. I killed her because she was a girl. There are just some things that you can't unsee and you can't unhear. I'm happy Ms. Jackson had this case. I'm so happy they denied. To think that 4 people showed up in support of her. How can you do that? I checked out this website, Art Spot Productions. What a dumb name, too. I'm glad she didn't get, who knows what she was going to say. But I looked at her site and it's like, pretty ridiculous as you might think. You can't, not everyone can just get another chance into society. She's a child murderer. I don't doubt in my mind that she killed 3 babies. And people will think that she could come back into society and nonetheless work with old people. Those who are equally as vulnerable as children. To think of that poor baby's last moments wondering, why is mommy doing this to me? As she snuffs the life out of her baby and then dumps her body in the back of the house like a piece of trash. And in her mind, because she's not a boy. You know, but again, like what's more, like we know that evil exists. We know that there are demented, scary people out there, but what I can never understand are the people that come and support them. That support not just them. You want to go support them on your own time? Go ahead. But support their freedom, to support them being put in the position where they can kill again, where they can harm again. That's not responsible. You can't do that. We just watched evil. We just saw evil. We'll do one more after this. Here it is. It is uncontested that the defendant, her 18-month-old daughter, rather the issue presented at trial was whether the defendant was legally sane at the time of the offense. On July 14, 1995, shortly after 10:30 p.m., the defendant called 911 to report that she had disappeared. Sergeant Lawrence Sylvan and Lieutenant David Wilson of the St. John Parish Sheriff's Office responded to the scene. Upon their arrival, the defendant told them that she had put her to bed and after taking a shower discovered that the child was missing. After talking to the defendant, the officers proceeded to the backyard for further investigation. They found the child unresponsive with no pulse, lying on the ground near the back of the defendant's apartment. An ambulance arrived to transport the child. Think of what this does to the police and to the ambulance drivers and to all the staff, to this little girl, and she, the ripple effect that this has on society, on everyone, everyone's lives it touched. Someone may never recover from this experience, whether it's the policeman, the nurse, and yet she just does it. There's something you're dealing with someone who needs to be locked up for the rest of their lives. And the cause of death was determined to be asphyxia due to suffocation. While the hospital and subsequently the detective bureau issued the defendant, who is not yet a suspect, maintained her story that she had put her daughter to bed and after taking a shower discovered that she was missing. They returned to the scene, the detectives. They found no evidence of that. was even no evidence that she took a shower. No wet towels. Shower was dry. No signs of forcible entry. But we know this. She admitted to it. Right? So there's no... What she claims she did is when the baby was sleeping, she held a washcloth over her nose and mouth until she stopped breathing. And then she put her outside. She went back inside. She changed her shirt and she called the police. She said that she'd been thinking about doing this for 4 to 5 months. She was fantasizing about doing this for 4 to 5 months. Here it goes through different times where she was hospitalized twice for unlifing her self thoughts or attempting to do that, saying she had voices in her to do that, and why she didn't. Someone like you can never be free. And that people show up to it's just mind blowing. I'm just reading through this. If there was it's this person can never get out, and it just can't. And I hope she never does. Terrifying. But I don't know what we can learn from something like this. I don't know what the takeaway can be from something like this. Mine is that there are people that belong in prison for the rest of their lives. That evil does exist. 3 babies. 3. And the only one that she does admit, she says she did it because she was a girl. And then 4 people show up to plead to the board that she should be free in the public. Can't make it up. Can't. And now we're going to go to March 9th, a couple of years ago. It's really another nutty case. I haven't seen it, but Richard told me about it. And for the 30,000 subscriber milestone, I was thinking of doing something a little bit more uplifting, but again, this is why we do this channel, right? We don't do it because it's easy. We do it because it's hard, all that cliche stuff. A lot of you were around for when YouTube shut the channel down because the Attorney General in the state of Louisiana was trying to shut this channel down, and we instead of sitting back down and saying, "Oh, poor me," no, we fought it. Larry, the DUI guy, said, "I'm going to represent you at no cost," and it was And for those of you who haven't seen it, it was on the news for a little while. It was all over the news, and the state of Louisiana, and the parole board tried to hide this channel because we covered a hearing that they did not want people to know about. It was an embarrassment of a hearing where they granted parole for someone who at one time was on death row. And then, that 2 days after that, after I'd covered the hearing and after the hearing made the news, that I had covered, they denied his parole. They claimed that they found contraband in his cell. It was a complete lie. But yeah, you can see the new stuff on my second channel. Type in Mandu Channel 2, or if you're curious. But it's been a long battle to do this. It's been a long uphill road, and it is incredible that I have all of your support through this. So thank you. But enough about me and the channel. Let's go.
All right, please introduce yourself, state your name and DOC number for the record.
I'm Jerry Cooley. My DOC number is 576717.
Here again, my name is Brendan Kelsey. Along with Ms. Cheryl Knotts and Mr. Alvin Roche will be your panel. Explain the process to you, read some information to the record, have a parole interview, ask you some questions, you can respond. At the end, you can make a statement, we'll take a vote. You understand the process?
Yes, sir.
Jerry Cooley, DOC number 576717, you're a first class offender. Parole eligibility date 4/10/2018, not eligible for good time, full time 12/11/2022, a 12-year sentence. And you were aggravated incest, 3 counts, molestation of juvenile, sexual battery. That was on 12/17/2010. Does that sound correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, tell me how long you've been down on this charge.
I've been down 10 years, 3 months.
How old are you?
54.
You're in your 40s when this crime was committed, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what kind of work you've been doing since you've been in there. What kind of classes have you been taking? Have you taken sex offender treatment classes? What have you been doing?
I took all 4 sex offender classes. I took pre-release class, and I've been working for maintenance the entire time, doing their HVAC, electrical work, and control work for them.
Is that what you did on the outside?
Yes, sir. I was electrical instrumentation shop.
But now, are you a trustee there or what?
Yes, sir. I am a trustee, but
Level 3.
level 3 trustee. I'm sorry.
How long you been that?
Oh. Good morning. Since 2019.
Now, have you taken any type of substance abuse or any type of other self-help treatments?
No, sir. I'll be honest with you. I've never did drugs. I've never.
Drugs or alcohol? You never had a problem with any of that?
No, sir.
Well, tell me about the crime. I mean, is that just tell me about that. I read through it extensively. You have multiple victims. What caused that?
Harsh playing. I shouldn't have done that.
You get charged with aggravated incest, molestation, and sexual battery, and that's horse playing?
No. I went over my boundaries, yes, sir.
Well, you have some adamant opposition, nothing that you can do about it from the victim, from law enforcement, you were to be released early, where would you go? What would you do?
I would go home to my home with my wife, where we, sir,
Where is that?
1063 Long Acre Road, DeRitter.
Mhm.
We have a 300-acre farm there under game fence, and I would go to my home with my wife and start raising my animals back like I have.
That's your property, you and your wife's property? It's just family land? What is that?
It's me and my wife's. We bought it when we first got married. We bought 300 acres. We game fenced it. We have cyca deer, whitetail, zebras, and I would go back to doing that. And I've got a home I want to build for us. Our home got tore up, and that's my first priority, is build her a house. And I'm very capable of building her house.
Now, the victims here involved, obviously they were young. These were your stepdaughters? What were these victims?
My stepdaughters, yes, my wife's daughters.
And you're telling me that you just were horse playing and you feel like you overstepped your bounds on these? That's what you've come to learn since taking this 4 phases of sex offender treatment?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, sir. They're saying, they're telling, it's,
I don't want them to tell me, I want you to tell me.
I'm like the oldest one, for instance. Now, I don't want you upset at me, but I'm gonna be very honest. I've been
No,
honest.
this is the time to be honest. This is the best time. It's the best time to be honest.
She said that I cut my hand, put it over her breast outside the clothes. And in the criminal trial, then the civil trial, she said I never did that.
Okay. Anything else? What about the others?
The Kimberly, the youngest one, said that I performed the boob twister. Can I say that word? I hate to say that word, sorry, but titty twister. And then that was criminal trial. Then civil trial, she said I never did that. She said I didn't do that. I wish this would have never went. I wish this wouldn't have happened. Believe me, I feel so bad. I promise you, I feel horrible. I just wanted them. That's my wife's children. I love my wife to death. And that's who I want to spend the rest of my life with, is her. And
I understand, but there are victims involved here. We're just trying to get it figured out. Are you
Yes, sir.
You pled to these charges?
Sir?
You go to trial or you pled to these charges?
I went to trial.
You were found guilty of these charges?
Yes, sir, I was.
And so if you're not successful today, you have a full-term date of 12/11/2022, correct?
Yes, sir. 21 more months.
All right, I have no further questions. I'll sit back and listen to my colleagues. Ms. Renata?
So, Mr. Cooley, what are you guilty of? Have you given that any thought?
Yes, yes, ma'am, I have. I feel I should have never horseplayed with them at all, period. I should not have done that. And I'm guilty of that. I just tried to make them fit in comfortable.
Do you have any children of your own?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I have one son. His name is Gary.
How old is he?
26.
Okay.
And he should have been with my wife today. Yeah, there he is.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, yeah, okay. All right, thank you, sir. I have no other questions. Mr. Cooley, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Roche?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Cooley. How are you?
Good morning, sir. I'm good, sir.
Good. Let's see. Melissa, Kimberly, and Stephanie are your stepdaughters, right?
Yes, sir, they are.
And who's Stevie?
Stevie was a back neighbor behind our home about 2 miles through the woods.
Okay. And I just would like to give you an idea what the district attorney's office said about your case.
Yes, sir.
As far as I know, the offender has never accepted responsibility for his action. He has shown no remorse. And basically, you've not taken responsibility for your actions this morning because to you, it was just horseplay. But a jury who had the opportunity to look at all the evidence,
Yes, sir.
hear all the witnesses, convicted you of aggravated incest
Yes, sir.
and molestation of a juvenile and sexual battery, 3 counts.
Yes, sir. Sexual battery, 1 count.
1 count, okay. So basically, the evidence was overwhelming that a jury convicted you. Am I right?
Yes, sir, they did.
Okay. And a vast part of your rehabilitation, Mr. Cooley, is to accept responsibility for what you did.
Yes, sir.
And I don't see that this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, does staff have any comment there at the facility, staff?
You want me to move?
Just real quick, he's been here since, I think, 2011, as I was looking at his record, and as probably you've been provided the information, but he's without disciplinary. He's done his time well here, been active in programs, and he's actually works for our maintenance group, and has been in that area for quite a while, supporting the unit. So he's done his time well here now.
Thank you. All right, now we'll hear from Ms. Cooley. Donna Cooley.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah. It's been 10 years since he's been gone, and I have really struggled to keep things together on my own. I do have support from his son and my family. And since Hurricane Laura, she destroyed our home. Right now I'm in a camper. This is a camper that my 82-year-old mother lives with me. I'm taking care of her. I'm working 50-hour-a-week job, trying to take care of her and that. And I really just I need him home to take some of this weight off of my shoulders. He loved to play with kids. He loved to make them laugh. He tried so hard to help the girls fit in with the family, because merged families don't always work. And he tried so hard to make them laugh and cut up with them. And they just took it wrong. I know my husband loves me, and he would never cheat on me or hurt me with anybody else, much less my own children. I really need him home.
All right, thank you. All right, would you like to make a statement on your behalf, Mr. Cooley?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry this has turned out the way it's turned out. I'm so scared of female. No offense to anybody, but you can ask the people behind me. I'm so frightened of females. I'll do anything in the world for my wife and my son. I love them to death. I feel so bad for them kids. I do. That torments me every single day laying in this bed for the last 10 years. And even if I have to stay inside our game fence, we have a game fence, 8-foot fence all the way around our place. Even if I'm told not to leave, you can ask Warden Cooley. If he tells me something, I will never go out of my boundaries. So I can build this woman a home. I'm capable of doing that. I'm very knowledgeable. And do I feel bad? Yes, I do. I feel horrible. But please consider this for me, and not for me, for my wife and my son. And if I could do anything to make these girls feel better, give them my right arm, I would. People don't think I feel bad. I do. I feel horrible. So please consider this. I promise y'all, I will not. If they tell me to stand there, I'll stand there. If they say don't go anywhere, I don't go nowhere. If you tell me to stay inside that fence, I promise you, I will call you up every day to let you know I've never left until you say I can leave. And I'll put my life on. But please let me build this woman and her mother a home, please. And again, I do feel bad. And I'm sincere about that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. It's better prepared to vote.
Yes.
Yeah, Terry, look, you know, kind of put yourself in this spot. Sounds like you're doing a lot of good things on the inside. You've taken a lot of classes, or at least you've taken the sex offender class. You told me you've taken all 4 phases and you've taken pre-release. I don't know of anything else that you've taken in there.
Right.
Which they have, you know, there's opportunity to take a lot of things from parenting to anger management to just there's a lot of things you still can take on the inside.
Yes,
Look, today for me, it's, you know, I'm going to vote to deny your parole because of law enforcement opposition, victim opposition. I think you can take some more classes, the nature of the crime. So that's my vote for today. Ms. Renata?
My vote also is to deny Mr. Cooley. You have law enforcement opposition. Obviously, the victims are opposed.
Yes,
And
sir.
quite frankly, it's just that you haven't accepted your guilt in the crime.
I'm sorry.
I wish you well, though. I do. Good luck,
right.
sir.
Mr. Roche?
Mr. Chairman, my vote is the same, based upon the strong opposition from law enforcement, the DA's office. Multiple victims are adamantly opposed, and the victims are still emotionally and mentally affected by these offenses. And based on those, I'm going to not deny his request.
Yes, sir.
All right, 3 votes to deny your parole. Your parole's been denied today. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wow. Have you been more disgusted in your life? When you think that it can't get worse, it somehow does. When you think things can't get more absolutely mind-blowing disgusting, it does. That roach was so you could see his giant smile through the mask. But who's worse, him or his wife? That's the same wife, that's the mother of the children who he did that to. She's still with him. What is wrong with you? literally in what she said, it said it all. He would never cheat on me. Those are the words that she said. He would never cheat on me. It's your daughters. What is wrong with you? You deserve each other. That's for sure. You know, Miss Renata's face said it all, but I don't know why she had to add, you know, she did not have a poker face on. She's just like, this guy's nuts. But then she says, I'm wishing you the best. What are you wishing him the best for? He does not deserve your best wishes. Where are your 3 daughters now? You kicked them out of the house for this cockroach of a husband? Well, he's in prison? Well, on false promises that he's going to build you a house? Let me build her a house. That was so pathetic. Yeah, of course he has no write-ups. The warden tells me do I do because you're a coward. You're a cowardly roach. You're all the same. Do you even realize that you're all the same pathetic, useless waste of life? You and your wife, perfect for each other. Disgusting. Those 3 daughters are good for them good for them for at least not, you know, just giving in and being victims and living in that trailer with this piece of trash. Sorry excuse for a mother. You know what's one thing in common with all these 3 hearings that we saw today? They all deserve each other. Could put them all in a room and have them go play house. Go do some horsing around. The preacher and this clown, both of them laughing through their hearings. Then you have both women, one who gets rid of her daughter because she's a girl, and the other who gets rid of 3 of her daughters in support of the man that did that to them, that was found guilty of incest against them. They all have three things in common. They're missing something. They're missing the thing that makes them human. God, I say, if you didn't see it, you wouldn't believe it. You just couldn't. It was only in 2010. You know, he is free now. He got out. He did all of that crying and pathetic. He was going to get out anyways soon. He was released. When was he released? He was released 12/11/2022. Here's where it says they found him guilty. This is in 2010. He was arrested in 2008. 3 counts of aggravated incest. 4 victims, if 17, under the age of 17. The jury, it only took the jury 1 hour to find him guilty unanimously. And yet the judge only gives him 10 years. How? He went to trial. He didn't even do a plea deal. The victims had to go on the stand. And then when all this is said and done, the judge would be like, this is so tough. You're going to get 10 years in prison. What? How is that possible? You get more time for having possession of marijuana. We've seen it. What is wrong with the system? This was a sentence in 2010. This isn't that long ago. Joey DeBlanc and Donna Cooley were divorced when the girls were very young. Then Donna married Terry. Initially, the girls lived with their father at Lake Charles, but eventually went to live with Donna and Terry. Remember Donna, his wife, who showed up here? Pathetic. Call yourself a mother. When the girls moved in, Terry began tickling the girls in a form of, look at the word, horseplay. However, around that time, Melissa turned 10. She was turned 10. Terry began using tickling as an opportunity to touch her breasts. The tickling was almost a daily occurrence. He would come into their bedroom at night to tickle her. Melissa testified that he would also grab her training bra and snap it. Terry also commented on her breasts. When Terry would tickle Melissa on her knees, he would leave his hand there. Sometimes he would place his hand in between her legs. Melissa testified that she told her mother that she did not like it and Terry was doing. And her mother told her she was overreacting. Her mother told her she was overreacting. You belong in prison with him. Shame on you. Donna denied that Melissa said anything to her. One day, Melissa began crying at school and explained to a friend her situation at home. At this point, it appears the Office of Community Services got involved and met with Donna at the school in the afternoon after Melissa went to her to live with her father. They informed Terry that he should stop tickling the girls, which he did for a while. However, Terry's attention soon turned towards Stephanie. She was also about 10 years old when the tickling became sexual. Stephanie testified that tickling went from playful and innocent to knowingly inappropriate. He would touch her on her breast and sometimes close to her between her legs. This almost occurred almost daily and sometimes at night. This went on for 5 years. At one point, Terry tried to get Stephanie to watch an inappropriate movie with her, which started with a topless cheerleader. She left the room, but he followed her and told her there was nothing wrong with the movie. One time, Terry even talks to Stephanie about sex. He told her to put small shampoo bottles up her. It was not until years later that Stephanie realized he was talking about masturbation. He also told her that he could see her in the bathroom through a crack in the door. Stephanie testified that she caught him taking pictures of her under the bathroom door. Remember, she's testifying, and they still only gave 10 years on a unanimous jury verdict. What judge does that? She eventually started dressing in the shower. She was so terrified. Another time Stephanie wanted to go roller skating, Terry told her that she would have to bend over and let him spank her first. When she complied, he stuck his fingers in her buttocks. He then took her skating and watched her skate. Another incident occurred when Stephanie rode on the wheel fender of the tractor Terry was driving. When they went to feed hay to the animals, he would reach back and touch her thigh. He got mad at her because she kept pushing his hand away. After this, he would not let her go spend the night at a friend's house. He retaliated after she rejected his advances. He would walk around in his underwear. Sometimes his jeans would be unbuttoned and unzipped. One time he urinated in the backyard in front of Stephanie. The final straw for Stephanie came the night she was cleaning the kitchen. When she turned around, Terry had pulled his you-know-what out of his pants. He walked up behind her, slapped her in the behind, and told her not to say anything. She went to the bathroom and he followed her in and did it again. The next day at school, Stephanie told a friend about the incident. The friend told her mother that Stephanie told her. The friend's mom then went to Donna's office. Donna denied it happened, so the friend's mother told school officials who involved OCS again. Went to Donna's office. Where's Donna's office? I guess that was where she worked. Donna's, I don't get how Donna didn't get prosecuted for this. I mean, I guess it was impossible, but she does not deserve to be free. I mean, it just goes on and on. Terry began inappropriately touching Kimberly's breasts, which went on for about a year. After Stephanie went to live with Joey, he hired an attorney to get custody of Kimberly. Eventually, the Cooleys gave in and let Kimberly go live with her father. After Kimberly left home, Terry made a vow to Donna that he was not going to tickle anymore. Eventually, Terry told Donna that to tickle some neighborhood kids. A month later, Terry was arrested. Criminal charges were brought. Aggravated incest for Luli fondling juvenile stepdaughter. Aggravated incest for exposing his genitals. And Luli fondling his minor stepdaughter. So for Stephanie, for Melissa. And for Kimberly, for 3 daughters. And also for a neighbor. 4 victims that we know of. And all they sentenced him to is 5 years of hard labor for each aggravated count to run concurrently. 2 years at hard labor for the battery and 7 years at hard labor for the molestation, but all to run concurrently. It just doesn't make sense. And he went to trial. I just don't get it. Then they sued him civilly, and they won. These girls, good for them. They not only got him sent to prison, but they sued him civilly, and they won. They won $50,000 to each girl. I doubt they'll ever see a penny of it, but once he was talking about, in the civil case, they denied that ever happening. Really? Yet they won the 50 grand. He's so full of it. Yeah, what a clown. He says he says the exact words. Terry specifically takes issue with the court finding that he performed titty twisters on Melissa, and the act the trial court described as painful and offensive gesture, which needs no elaboration. At trial, Melissa explained that Terry would grab her breast from the underside while saying honk honk and laughing. He referred to this action as titty twisters. Melissa agreed he did not actually grab her and twist her nipples as the term contemplates. However, he did grab her breast. It was named Terry gave to his touching. It's just... It's just madness. It really is. How is it that this kind of evil exists? This kind of depravity? But what makes it just that much worse is that you have his wife who was married to him. Then it's her children. It's her 3 biological daughters. And her answer in her speech is, he loved to play with kids. He would never cheat on me. And what was his thing? I'm so frightened of females in his speech. I'm so frightened of females. What is wrong with you? His laughing, this evil laughing. But what's scary is that it's not just what's wrong with him, and it's not just what's wrong with his wife. It's what's wrong with the judge. Surely you had more precedence to give a longer sentence. You gave a little slap on the wrist. I guess what it's just, hey, this is why we do this. This is why we do this. Because if you wouldn't see it, you would not believe it. You just wouldn't. I wouldn't, at least. I would say, exaggerating. But we've been going on 2 hours, 15 minutes. Thank you. All I have to say is thank you for all the support. I wouldn't do this if it wasn't for all the support and encouragement and words of encouragement and everything that you do for me, for this channel. We do together, I would say. And with that, I'll let you go.